I'm going to start by talking about our application of lean inside the company. I think it's quite interesting. I found a number of things in Jim's talk interesting in terms of it's actually thinking about the people and thinking about the way the organisation works, which is where a lot of this lean thinking seems to have value. And you know, we're consultants, we shouldn't be preaching something if we don't practice it. So we have a number of examples where we've taken the lean principles and I try to use those principles to improve the way that we do business ourselves. First area to start off there was recruitment. We're a relatively small organisation. We've got a couple of quite sizable projects on at the moment and we're inherently growing quite rapidly. We've had to take on quite a number of people over the past year, 18 months, both permanent and contractors. And we were getting frustrated at how long that was taking. Senior staff, particularly my boss, were also getting frustrated at how much of their effort it was taking to get a new recruit into the organisation. So we started doing some lean analysis, and we came up with a notion of value. The value of the recruitment process is when we get the right person in the right job, sitting at the desk on day one, doing the job, and by the way, that we're paying them something which is fair to them and fair to us. Anything else isn't really helping the process. In particular, if we interview people that aren't the right person for the job, that's wasted time, it's a waste of their time. If we make offers to people who aren't really interested in working for us, that's waste. If we end up having to go back and renegotiate salary or benefits or working arrangements, that's waste. So taking that in mind and having the idea of flow and tokens, Kanban tokens in mind, we now have a lean recruitment process which is based around two types of information. There's a vacancy token, which represents a job that we would like someone to do. And it captures, hopefully, all the relevant information about that job and about the recruitment process. That includes not only what the job spec is, but also when we would like to do the interviewing, who's going to be involved in the interviewing, and what level of management approval we have and we have signed off for the salary of taking someone on in that role. The other part of the problem is an individual, someone who might like to work for us. And we have a candidate token. That carries in it a CV, bio, carries the personal details. It also carries a review record. The CV will come in, someone will read it, think, yes, that looks appropriate for that job. They will add their comments, they will add their judgment to that token. And the token itself, it's a spreadsheet, has guidance on what happens next. If you are a CV reviewer and you have just filled this in and said yes, then proceed to page 6 and send the form to Polly, because Polly organises interviews. And of course the interview dates should already have been in the advert for the job because they came off the vacancy token. And we found that worked quite well. We were actually able to take on a number of permanent contract staff that's a substantial proportion of the initial size of the organisation over a 12-month period. And by the end of it, we were able to do so without driving the senior managers and the senior engineers who were doing the interviews utterly crazy in the process. Another area of our business that we looked at and thought could work more smoothly was the process of starting up a new project. We are a services organisation. We have commercial people who go out and find work for us to do, and we have engineers and project managers who do work. And any engineers who've worked with salesmen, or any salesmen who've worked with engineers, will realise that the interface is not always entirely smooth. Essentially, there's a focus in one phase on putting in bids, writing proposals, managing the work, the commercial side of things, and then there's an organisation which is focused on successful delivery. That again was perceived to involve some delays and effort, which people didn't really think ought to be necessary. So we took an action to try and apply the lean principles and do an analysis on that process. And the result of that is that we now have a token that represents an engagement for us as a consultancy organisation. It starts off with the bid, with the identification of a prospect, has on the details of who the client is, what the contact are, what the scope of work is. As we go through the process of writing a proposal, we add on the strategy and the technical plan that we're proposing for the piece of work, and the constraints and assumptions that the bid team are working to. It's a spreadsheet, it's automatic. It can identify, based on the type of project and the type of work, who the appropriate reviewers and approvers would be. We have particular constraints that we need to satisfy if we are bidding certain sorts of safety work, in that we have to have particular reviewers involved and we have to have particular constraints in place. And this token will highlight those. And again, what we've seen here is, we believe, quite a successful move for our business. There is significantly less change to the project setup documents, and that's actually something you can measure by taking issue number at the point where the plan gets signed off as a metric, how many changes went on. And I think the key, very tangible benefit there is that many of our project plans have now been replaced by a single one-page project brief document, which essentially says, you know, the bid that we've produced, the bid token that we've produced, has all the information in to deliver this project. The project brief is just to go off and do it, deliver it. And we've actually seen significant reduction in our planning overhead and our documentation overhead on that process out of that activity.